Hi and welcome in today's video. Mariam here, sharing about how to live a more nourishing, energizing and prosperous life. I'm hoping this video is working. Okay, yeah, it seems like it's working. So today I have decided to share a little bit about hopefully the whole story about Anya's birth. So Anya is my very first born baby as a first-time mom, and she is today 5 weeks old. And most of you already know I gave birth to her on February 11th this year, 2021, and I wanted to answer a few questions that you had regarding the birth and share about the birth story. So let's go ahead with the question. The question number one is, did you have a birth plan? So when you come to the whole pregnancy process, shall I say, I went to every appointments with the hospital. All of this was totally normal. I went to do all the scans. I also did some private scans, and my plan was originally to give birth in a birthing center, which is a place where you are allowed to give birth the way you want, in the position you want. It's led by midwives, and so you don't really have the whole medical staff where you feel more maybe in control, and you don't have access to also any kind of epidural, or you do have access to gas and air to help with the pain, if you have pain, but that is it. So I wanted to have access to a birthing center so that I could be supported and surrounded by other women, and women who had obviously experience with birth, as I don't have any experience with this. Now, being COVID situation, at the very last appointment that I had at 38 weeks pregnant, I was told, we're not sure that the birthing center will be open and accessible. And if it's not, then you will have to go to the delivery unit, which is a normal hospital birth. So for me, there was no way I was going to go there. There was no way I was going to have I was going to say normal, but it shouldn't be normal. There was no way I was going to have a hospital birth, just because it didn't feel right to be laying down in a bed. It didn't feel right to have people telling me what to do, when to push, when to breathe, and it didn't feel right to feel like I had to rush because they had these, especially because they had a shortage of staff. So because there was no way this was going to happen, I felt like I had to have a plan, but not really share it with the hospital, share it with a midwife, share it during my pregnancy appointments, and even share it with my friends and family, simply because I didn't want people's feedback, and I didn't want people telling me, oh, you should do this and you should do that and you shouldn't do this and that. I just wanted to kind of plan things the way I wanted, but not really be influenced by others. The other thing is, when you are pregnant, you are so more vulnerable because of the hormones and because of all the fluctuations, and having people giving you feedback can be not always helpful, can make you feel uncomfortable, and can even be dangerous, because when I noticed that when I had a private scan, people were telling me, tap on your belly to make her move, and it didn't feel right. And I still did it because I felt like I was pressured by a team of other people, staff members who were trying to help, but it didn't feel right. So if something doesn't feel right, very important key during the whole pregnancy, and when you do want to give birth, and anytime during the process of actually anytime in your life, but really especially linked with a baby, if it doesn't feel right, just don't do it. Just don't. Because if it doesn't feel right, there's something wrong with it. And it doesn't matter if for other people it is right. If it's not for you, just don't do it. Okay. So in other words, I did have a birth plan. That there was two parts: a birth plan that I shared with the hospital, which was birthing center number 1, and hospital number 2, because I really didn't have no choice. And when you don't have a choice, I think that is very bad, because again, other people will tell you what to do, and it's not possibly going to go the way you want. And I have part number 2, my own birth plan, which I didn't really share with everybody, which was a home birth, but this was not allowed by due to COVID rules. The midwives was not allowed to come to people's house, and for safety reasons. So I decided I would find a way to have a home birth anyway, and that was my plan. And the number 3 for my friends and family, I was telling them the same as the hospital. Depends on who. Some people I was sharing with them I wanted a home birth, but others, like other family members, I would tell them I wanted a birth in a birthing center. I didn't really have. That's important with a birth plan. Actually, I think you should have a plan on seeing images and videos of things that you actually think would be good for you. But if you shouldn't be stuck on a birth plan, like it has to be this is how it's going to be, this is what I want. I never really had that, because most people I know who had such a very strict birth plan ended up having emergency C-section or things that they didn't actually want at all. So to avoid this, tip number 2 that I'm sharing here, have rather feelings and images of things that you want, but don't be super strict on I am going to have this and not that, because never know what can happen. And if you allow yourself to be more open, things that you didn't plan that are even better than your own plan will show up, like it was for me. So eventually, I'm going to share later on answering the other questions. I had what I could call some kind of dream birth for me. Although there was something I would, if it was to be done today, I would change possibly. I mean, not really change because everything was perfect, but if there was any advice I would give, there's something I would possibly update in the whole birthing story. I will share later on in this video. But eventually, yes, your birth plan, I think, for my tip number 2, should be feelings, images, thing that feels right for you, but not exactly something like very strict and that doesn't open doors to any other possibility. So this is what I had, feelings and images like, oh, this would be nice. Oh, having some music would be nice. Oh, being in this room in my house may be nice. Oh, if it was a birthing center, being in a pool would feel good. Having some oil and an oil diffuser would feel right. So I would buy things like that, what I call my birthing toys, and so that I could shape kind of my birth plan. And I think this is better than having a written birth plan where it doesn't actually feel alive and existing yet, because it's kind of theoretical put on a paper. Okay, question number 2 is, when was Anya, so that's my baby's name, Anya, born? She was born, so I said, on February 11th, and that was after 39 weeks and 4 days of pregnancy. And was she induced? No. Was it a natural birth? Yes. How did your labor start? Question number 3. It started during the morning, about between 2 and 3 a.m. and it was really, really gentle. If I can say some of the whole birthing process, I could say everything was very gentle, but at the same time, it came fast, because my labor only, I would say the active part of the labor only went on for about between 4 to 5 hours, which I think is pretty short, fast. But at the same time, everything was evolving very gently in a way that I could actually feel in control, but feel in the flow and feel absolutely relaxed during the entire birth, labor and birth. So it's as I said, it started between 2 and 3 a.m. That morning or that night, I was at my with my partner, and I woke up because I felt like there was some kind of how can I say? It wasn't painful, but my lower back, something like was happening in my lower back. I could feel like sensations down there, which I don't normally feel. And because I am very in tune with my body, I knew that something was happening. So I went into the toilet, noticed that my pants were slightly wet, but nothing was, like my pants were not wet. But I'm going to share details. Sorry, if you don't feel comfortable, you don't have to watch. Funny enough, because there was so many funny parts in this whole labor and birthing story. The day before, I thought I never go to bed with liners or things like that. Or during my entire pregnancy, I used only tissues at during the last trimester because there was some fluids coming out a little bit down there. All right, which is normal. That happened during the last trimester, so months 7, 8, 9. But I would only put a little bit of a tissue. I don't know, I didn't feel right to put liners. I wanted to feel kind of what was happening. And never did I get any spillage. And on that day, I decided to put more tissues. Funny enough, I think my partner had takeaway a couple of days before, and there was loads of tissues left from the takeaway, like big and thick ones. And I just decided to put these in my pants before going to bed the previous night. And in the morning when I woke up at 3 a.m. that day, they were all wet, all those, like really, really. But why did I thought, like, it's very interesting that I thought about putting more tissues than I usually do. But nothing was out of the tissues. My pants were fine, the bed was fine, everything was fine. How perfect that was. So I knew because it was more wet than usual that something may be happening, but I wasn't really sure if it was the water breaking, because usually when your water breaks, it's a lot more liquid. Okay, but anyway, I knew labor was starting because of the feeling I had in my lower back. And I was so excited, I decided to just enjoy the whole beginning of the experience. And I went back to bed. I was awake, and I just started to kind of visualize my day and do a bit of meditation and just relax and chill. At that moment, also, I was snuggling with my partner. If you're watching this video, cling, you may not know the whole details, but never mind. It's just fun to share. And it's interesting enough, again, synchronicities. He was massaging with his legs my lower back exactly in the area where things were happening and starting to move and shift and go more intense. And that felt so good and so warm. But he didn't know back then that my labor was starting. So after a couple hours, I decided to go down because there's 2 floors in the house, and stay with the dogs because my partner has dogs. And I stayed in the living room, and again snuggled on the sofa. I had a lemon water. Yeah, lemon water. That's what I was drinking back then. And again, do some meditation and kind of feel like, add some breathing, feel the flow. I just wanted to be with the flow with my body and accompany my body. Tip number 3, what you want to do only really is to accompany your body. So be an observer of what is happening and accompany. That's it, nothing else. You don't want to think about how many contractions do I have. Like, that's, for me, that's really, really a massive one, especially if you want to give birth naturally. Don't think about figures, numbers, how long. Just accompany your body and be present. So if a wave is coming, that's the word I use instead of contraction. I think it's way more gentle, and that's really what it feels like. I believe, and if you believe it feels like this, you will get that. So accompany the waves when they come in, and breathe deeply in when a wave is coming. Stay there when the wave is there, like suspending in the flow of your breathing, and breathe out as your wave is going away. And while you have no wave coming in and out, then you can be active and move. That's what I was doing. So okay, so after those 2-3 hours, about 5 a.m. in the morning, meaning 2-3 hours after the labor started, I decided to go back home. So I live only a few minutes away, walk from my partner's place. So I walked. Again, all the synchronicity. I had no clothes with me. They were all in the room, back upstairs, and I didn't want to go back there because I didn't want to wake up anyone. There were other people in the house. So I decided to go, but I had no clothes. And strange enough, there were clothes in the living room because they were just being folded, and they were there when normally there's no clothes there. Lucky me. So I got some trousers and a shirt and my coat, and I left. And guess what? It was snowing. It was just so nice. So I was there accompanying the waves, walking in the snow. And I think it was just, the whole thing was just magical. It was, I guess 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. And I really enjoy that. The fresh air, everything. So again, you can you can be active. Tip number 4 during the entire birth story: be active. Don't stay there waiting. Worst thing to do: be active and present at the same time, and accompany your body whatever is happening. You can walk, you can do some active workout if you want, you can dance, you can lift things. I'm going to share, I did that afterwards. We'll be sharing in this video right in a minute. Yeah, walk outside, do things. Don't overdo it, obviously, but just, it feels so nice to be, it feels powerful to be to be designing your own birth story, being an observer of your own body, instead of stressing out and freaking about, oh, let's get the hospital bag, let's go in the car, go to a hospital, let's ring the hospital. No, I did ring the hospital, but afterwards, and I will share why. Okay, so that's the question answered. Next question is, how long did your labor last? Oh, I shared that. So there was, I would say, 2 parts, kind of. Well, really 3, but 2 parts in the fact that the beginning, like the labor, the gentle, I wouldn't say gentle, but the non so active labor part, and the active or very active labor part. So as I said, I would say the non so active labor part is a part where you can actually do a lot of things, you know, like basically, yeah, walk around, talk, do all this. And then the very active labor part is where you don't really want to walk, you don't really want to go anywhere, you can't really talk so much, you really, really have to be present and 100% focused on what is going on because of the intensity of the situation. So the very active labor part lasts, as I said, about 4 to 5 hours. And the non-active labor part was between, so 2, 3, about 5-6 hours. Okay, next question. Did you have a lotus birth? So let me explain. A lotus birth is when you don't cut the umbilical cord of your baby and you leave it hanging with a placenta, and you wait until the cord falls by itself. Basically, that's what a lotus birth is. So that means you carry the placenta around with you. It usually lasts a few days, and yeah, you just let it fall off naturally. I did not have a lotus birth. Not that I wouldn't want to, but due to how the birth happened, no, it wasn't actually possible. I will share why in a minute again. Okay, who was with you when you gave birth? So I gave birth, then I can share, in my home, and not that it wasn't really exactly planned like that. It was more of a surprise. So when I walked back home, let me come back to my story. I left, walked in the snow, arrived home. I decided to set my my living room into a potentially labored, area to have labor, to work on whatever was happening in peace and happily. So I didn't plan on having anyone around at this time. It just didn't feel right. I wanted to be by myself. So I had bought a Swiss ball. I had bought an oil diffuser. I had bought things like a tarpaulin to put on the carpet to make sure the carpet was remaining clean. I had bought a few things that I would again call my birthing toys, and I was getting ready to set everything up. So again, you can be active during this part of labor. So I was putting everything, lifting things, basically redoing my living room so that I felt comfortable laboring in there. As everything was getting ready, the waves were getting more intense. I was still by myself. And after 5, I think, hours of that labor, 5 hours of labor, I wanted to ring the hospital to check if the birthing center was open. Because remember, in my birth plan, come back to your birth plan, we're sharing with the midwife, I said I wanted to give birth in a birthing center. And that still was a possibility for me. I wasn't planning on giving birth at home necessarily that moment when I was laboring there. I just wanted to make sure whichever option were in my mind, could be accessible. So ringing the hospital, asking, is the birthing center open? They answer, yes, it is. So I knew if I wanted to go to the pool, have a little swim, all this, I was able to do that. So hanging off, they asked me how many that's where the figures start. How many, so the midwife over the phone was asking me, how many contractions do you have? And that's where I didn't really have a clue. I didn't really know when a contraction really started. I didn't really know where it ended. And that's actually where I think I messed up, counting the number of contractions. So I didn't have an app to do that, an app on my phone. So there I was, trying to center with my breathing and the waves, and trying to figure out how many contractions per minute or 10 minutes I had to answer the question of the midwife. Very annoying. Tip number, am I tip number 4 or 5? Tip number 4, I believe. If something doesn't feel right, don't do it. It didn't feel right for me to count contractions, to get an app last minute. And even before, I actually had an app for this. I didn't even remember. It didn't feel right to press the start button when the contraction was supposedly starting and try and figure out, like, making sure my phone wasn't going on sleepy mode, and at the same time breathing and feeling my body and trying to like do all this at the same time. It just did not feel right. And I was doing it only because someone else asked me to do it. Don't do that. If it doesn't feel right, don't do it. And I know many people will say, well, yeah, you need to know, Mariam. You can't just go like that, laboring or giving birth without knowing where you are at. But I think you should, because if you feel everything, feel the waves growing, evolving, everything is going to be fine. If you're there with your body, okay, in control of your own body, knowing what is happening, what is really important to know, you'll be fine. So there I was. So I gave a figure. I forgot what I gave. And then the midwife answered, okay, you can stay where you are at home and call us back when everything gets more intense. Basically, the contractions were not intense enough, the waves, for me to go to the birthing center, which was, I mean, I was open to go there like straight away if they were telling me, come to the birthing center. So here I am, hanging off the phone, staying at home and going with the flow, with the waves, and keep using my toys and everything. At some point, so we are talking about 10 a.m. in the morning, which is about 7 hours after labor started, I start to feel like I want to have someone around me. I don't want to be alone, but I want the person to just be there and not, ask me anything or like be annoying or be fearful. Tip number 5, be surrounded by people who don't send waves or energy of fear, or like don't stress you out, don't make you nervous, aren't nervous themselves, are very confident that everything is going fine. Oh, so key. Otherwise, you are going to be in trouble. Okay, so I decided to ring my mother-in-law and ask her, would you be okay to come? So she said yes. She canceled her day of work and she came in with me, and that was so great because she isn't a nervous person. She's absolutely peaceful and fine, and she was doing her own things in my living room while I was switching place, going into the bathroom. So there I was on the best place to give birth, which is, guess what? The toilet seat, or really laboring, not giving birth. And I was on the toilet seat and I was continuing part 2 of my labor, which is, as I said previously, active labor. So that's when I wasn't really wanting to walk anywhere, wasn't really wanting to talk anything, wasn't really wanting to do anything else but be really, really, really present with my body, 100% focused, and accompany the waves with the breathing. That's where tip number 6, breathing in and out, and also holding your breath in a certain way for a certain time, not too long, because you want your baby to keep having this oxygen, is very key. Knowing how to breathe through the waves is very, very key. I'll share that probably in another video. I believe things like meditation can help a lot, but that was really I don't really like to use this word, painkiller. This was really the relief for the entire labor. For me, if I didn't have that, I would have wanted an epidural. But thanks to specific breathing techniques, you can really make it a lot easier and almost pain-free, I could say. I'm not saying it was intense, but I wouldn't say painful, although you feel like because the intensity and the type of experience is very different from anything you can experience in this world. It feels painful, but it's not actually painful. I would say it's intense. And if you are able to breathe a certain way and accompany those opening, because really what is happening is your pelvic area opening up so that the baby can go through the birth canal. So when you remember this, you understand this, then you visualize this happening inside of you and you accompany this, it feels a lot greater. So breathing in when the wave comes in, holding when the wave is very, very, very intense, holding a little, pushing at some point when you come to more active stage, but really you follow your body's urge and your body's, I guess, way of telling you things. And it's not like you push, but you contract kind of down there, or your organs down there. And when the wave is coming out, you breathe out. And you keep doing this on and on and on. At the same time, affirmations helped a lot. For me, I would say, so tip number 6, after the breathing technique, affirmations, and be so strong in those affirmations that it takes over the mind. When I say that, I mean the very, very important part during the labor is to have a strong, super strong, lion type mindset. Because if you don't have that, you're going to feel so weak. You're going to feel like you are dizzy, fainting, and you are going to want to quit this whole process. The key is to really set yourself and keep, how can I say, keep working on having your mind very intensively aware of what is happening and strong. You have to have this lion energy and lion strength inside of you all the time, especially during that very active end of labor, because that's the part where you want to stay. And usually it also happened to me, so I'm sharing, even though I was doing all of this, at some point at the very last minute I wanted to quit, and that's when she was born. And I think it happens very often. The time you want to quit and you want an epidural is actually the time when your baby is supposed to come out. I think she's waking up a bit. If she does wake up, I'll stop the video and finish a part 2. For now, I'll keep going on. So yeah, affirmations to keep you very strong, because the boundary, the bridge between I am strong and I feel super weak is so tiny, like a razor blade, that's the word. So you can switch from one to the other in a second, and you don't want to switch, you want to stay on the side of powerful woman. I can do it, I can make it. So I was at some point when it was really, really intense, I wasn't, now you don't shout, and there's no need to scream and shout, by the way, don't lose your energy. I'll come back to this in a minute. But for my tip number 6, the affirmation, you have to affirm it really strong and powerful, like you are the master, God, master of the world, whatever, or whoever. But I was saying really, really strongly, God give me the strength. Like God give me the strength. God give me the strength. I know it feels weird, but I really want to share that. That's really how I was pushing it and saying it, not loud, but intense inside of me, because that's the type of strength you need. A goddess-like strength, superwoman type of strength, and ongoing. Otherwise, you can't make it. Okay, let's move on. So after this, why was I? So yeah, who was with me then after a little bit? So all this time, my partner didn't know I was actually about to give birth. So, and I thought he knew, because another synchronicity, he sent me a smiley, an emoji on the phone with a thumbs up. And I thought he knew that I was starting, the labor process was starting. That was in the morning around 7 or 8, I think. And then when I talked to my mother-in-law, I realized he didn't know. So I thought she told him. And she said, no, I didn't. And so I was like, wait, how come he sent me a thumbs up and he doesn't even know I'm into labor? And so then she said, oh, do you want me to tell him? And I said, well, yes, please. And as soon as she told him, he came over. So I was accompanied by my mom-in-law and my partner, who were in the living room doing their own things, talking, chatting, la la la, which was so great. That's exactly what I wanted. People doing their own things, and me while I was laboring in the bathroom doing my own things. That felt so great. They was there if I needed, but they were not asking me tons of questions. Actually, they were not asking any questions. They were not in the way. They were not nervous at all. They were just letting me do my things as if I was playing dominoes or Scrabble or poker in another room while they were having tea in the living room. That's exactly how it felt like, and that's exactly how I wanted it, or how I would have dreamed it, visualized it, as I shared, in my own inner birth plan. Okay? So that's one thing. All right. And then what did I want to share? So yes, I was accompanied by those two. No one else. There was no medical staff in the whole process, no painkiller, nothing to, as I said, what I used to relieve the experience was my breathing and affirmations. Oh, baby. It's okay. But that was it. So yeah, is there any other question? Did you have any painkillers? No, nothing. As I said, breathing and affirmations. Advice to moms about to give birth. So she came. Oh, sorry. I may stop here and share in another video how she came. All right. I'll share how she came. I didn't push at all. I'm going to explain what happened exactly. And you don't have to have a give birth pushing. I didn't believe in that. My whole birth plan was, I'm not going to push anything. I'm going to use other techniques. I'm going to stop now. But yeah, in part 2, I will share the end, her actual birth without pushing, and how she came in like a few seconds only. Part 2. All right. Bye-bye. See you.